Coming up, equity, discrimination, the NAACP, and Ron DeSantis. Welcome to Just Facts News, where we bring you thoroughly vetted facts that other newscasts have ignored or distorted. In a recent episode of ABC's World News Tonight, anchor Lindsay Davis reported this.
The NAACP is issuing a formal travel advisory for Florida, saying the state has become hostile to Black Americans under Republican Governor Ron DeSantis. Other civil rights groups have issued similar warnings in recent weeks. This is DeSantis is on the verge of entering the race for the White House.
Here's what ABC News failed to tell you. Florida recently enacted a law that reinforces the U.S. Civil Rights Act, which requires that every person be treated equally under the law. This is the very definition of civil rights. However, the NAACP is a proponent of equity, which demands unequal treatment so people have equal outcomes. In the words of Vice President Kamala Harris, there's a big difference between equality and equity. Equitable treatment means we all end up in the same place. That often entails treating people unequally, which is explicitly forbidden by the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Nevertheless, many on the left embrace it. Here's something else ABC News failed to tell you. The NAACP has a long history of placing political agendas over its stated mission to eliminate discrimination. For example, the NAACP supported placing Hugo Black on the U.S. Supreme Court even after he was exposed as being a former member of the Ku Klux Klan. Why would the NAACP take this position? Because of Black's liberal voting record. Just a few years later, Black authored the Supreme Court's decision in Korematsu versus United States, which allowed the Roosevelt administration to place U.S. citizens of Japanese descent into detention camps during World War II. On the morning after the ABC News broadcast, NBC News anchor Tom Llamas reported virtually the same as NBC, while adding that the NAACP was responding
to what it calls DeSantis' aggressive attempts to erase Black history and to restrict diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in Florida schools. Earlier this year, DeSantis blocked an advanced placement course in African American studies from being offered in Florida high schools.
Here's what NBC failed to tell you. Florida law requires schools to teach the history of African Americans, including the ramifications of prejudice, racism, and stereotyping, along with slavery, racial oppression, and racial discrimination. However, Florida law prohibits public schools and colleges from teaching students that they are superior, oppressed, privileged, or guilty by virtue of their race. In other words, it prevents teachers from telling students that the color of their skin makes them guilty of a sin. In fact, Florida law doesn't even prohibit the teaching of leftist racial concepts like ancestral guilt and white fragility, as long as it is done in a neutral manner without endorsement of the concepts. However, the AP class endorsed those concepts, and the NAACP wants children indoctrinated with them without their parents' knowledge, much less their buy-in. Thank you for joining us. Tune in next time for more thoroughly vetted facts that other newscasts ignore or distort.